So, welcome to Seeds of Success, LFS and Your Career. Very happy to be here with you. Before we jump in, I will take a moment to acknowledge that the UBC Point Grey campus is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. Our faculty is committed to working with Indigenous communities and students alike in our curriculum and research. For me today, I'm downtown Vancouver, which means that I'm on the traditional territory of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh peoples. I'm very grateful to be able to live in this gorgeous place and to appreciate the land that has been stewarded by our Indigenous communities since time immemorial. If you're somewhere else today and you'd like to acknowledge your where you're residing right now or where you're joining us from, please feel free to do that in the chat. I think that's a great way to practice allyship. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to do some introductions and then a short icebreaker activity that's really an opportunity for us to gather more information about what you're interested in, what you're wanting to learn about. We'll talk a bit about career in general, navigating career uncertainty and figuring out whether or not LFS is the right place for you to be. We'll talk a bunch about how LFS supports you in your career development. And then we have some wonderful humans here that have joined us, both alumni and a current student as well, that are going to share a bit about their experiences and answer your questions as well. So I'm Allison Mander-Wionzek. I use she and they pronouns, and I am the LFS Career Strategist. So if you do decide to apply and are admitted and accept your admittance to the Faculty of Land and Food Systems, you'll see me a bunch. I will work with you as much as you want, whether that be through like one-on-one advising, helping you with your resumes, or all kinds of different things as well. So my role is a really special one. Not every faculty at UBC has this particular role, so we call this an embedded career strategist. It means that I offer customized career support for LFS students. So I'm able to actually dig into the specific interests and context of LFS students to help you to determine maybe like companies or organizations you'd like to work for, how you can prepare yourself by gaining experience while you're in school, how you can talk about your academic experience in the context of employment as well, so that you can really showcase the value of your degree. It means I'm also around, so you'd see me all the time. Well, not all the time. I'm not going to class with you every day, but you'd see me in all the big major events. So on your first day of joining us at LFS at what we call Imagine Day, I run a career session during that day as well. And I'm around throughout that day. I do events throughout the year. I work with communities across our faculty as well to provide career support. I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. And like I mentioned, yeah, I'm knowledgeable about the LFS context specifically and outcomes for LFS students. Over to you, Tuan. Oh, sorry. Oh, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I can.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Allison, for introducing yourself. I'm really grateful to have a career strategist within LFS, and we're just working with you in student services. And so, hello, everyone. My name is Tuan. I use he, him pronouns, but I'm actually the student recruitment coordinator, which means I'm essentially a recruiter for the Faculty of Land and Food Systems. Maybe you've seen me in your classrooms doing workshops. I've also been the person that's been organizing Taste of LFS this year. So for me, I'm always about engaging with prospective students, trying to show students what we actually do in LFS and just the sheer amount of learning that we do in LFS and why it's so important to our food system. And I'm actually still a student within LFS as I'm finishing up my last year in the Bachelor's of Science in Food and Resource Economics. But I'm just lucky to have a co-op and to be able to actually work with the faculty for this current year now. So yeah, I'm grateful to be here, and I'll let Allison take over.
Thanks. And we're so grateful to have you here making all of this possible. Okay, so now is time to join Slido. So again, you have the QR code there, or if you prefer, you can go to slido.com and use the code #LFS careers. So our first question for you is just, what do you hope your undergraduate studies will prepare you to do or contribute to? So this is a very career-focused question, but we know that for the most part, people decide to attend a higher education because they want to pursue a career that is meaningful for them. So we're very curious to know what that means to you. So like what would be meaningful for you? What do you hope that you'll be able to do after graduating from your undergraduate studies? I see some folks typing, so I'll just wait a few moments for you to reply. One of the things that I think is really cool about LFS, and I'll dig into this a little bit more uh, in a few moments, is just the variety of types of things that you can do with an LFS degree. So many people will be starting their first year of undergrad studies knowing exactly what it is that they hope to do, and others will maybe be figuring that out along the way. And both of those things are great and great ways to approach it for sure. So I see a couple things. So I want to learn how to do research and gain connections in the health industry. So absolutely a great place for you to be here in LFS. Something that's cool about our faculty is that it's a very holistic approach to health. So because we have sort of the systems-based approach to the Faculty of Land and Food Systems, we really think about all the different things that come together to promote health and impact people's health. So there's lots of different ways that you could gain experience through research and meeting people, getting connected. And we'll talk more about that in a second as well. Healthier, more sustainable communities. That's essentially exactly what we hope for as well. That's what we're committed to in the faculty. It's more or less what everyone that is a part of our community is thinking about. And that looks like different things for different people. So healthier, sustainable communities. We have our agricultural programs, our sustainable agricultural program. We have researchers that are doing really interesting work around like animals as well. And then food production, et cetera. And then also working more in a person-oriented way, whether that's through maybe dietetics, nutrition, et cetera, lots of different things. To understand how food, health, and environment connect. Great. Yes. So that's very cool because that's absolutely what I'm trying to get at is this sort of systems-based approach to the like land and food. Beautiful. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. And the next one, which might be similar, and that's okay if it's similar, but I'm still curious, is what do you think you want to learn about during your undergraduate studies? So often I talk to students about their career, and when they're not sure what they want to do with their degree after they graduate, this is a really worthwhile thing to be considering. So I try to help them to think about like, what are you curious about? What would you like to learn more? How do you want to be spending your time? And those things can really signal great steps for you to take or places for you to spend your time and energy to continue to explore. And then as we find things that we like, we can then use those to lead to more things that we actually like and enjoy. While I know that when you're in the process of like figuring out what school you want to go to and whether you want to go to school or not after graduating from high school or whether you're transferring in from another school, I know that it is actually can be quite stressful in terms of feeling like you need to have all the answers right away. And then you need to use that time to make every exactly perfect step in order to get to where you want to go. That's a real stressor that exists for people, and it's because this time is very precious. We know that's very precious, right? But that's also very scary when you're putting that much pressure on yourself. So thinking about, what you want this time to be about in terms of learning and experience is a good way to maybe reduce some of that pressure because the reality is that we don't know the future, right? So we can't actually know exactly where we'll end up, but we can use information about ourselves and our opportunities to make good decisions along the way. Nutrition and ethnobotany, that's very cool. I know absolutely nothing about ethnobotany, but that sounds really interesting. I see one person still typing, so that's great. We'll just give them an opportunity to do that. I see a question while we're waiting. I see a question in the Q&A. So maybe I'll just check in on this and see if we can answer it while we wait. So the question is, as a current high school student who wishes to go into med or dentistry, would LFS be a good stepping stone? How does it compare to the Faculty of Science or kin? Okay, so we're going to get into that a little bit more, but absolutely the answer is yes, this is a great place to be. Many of our students go into medicine, dentistry, physiotherapy, these sorts of patient-centered types of careers. And there are different reasons why they choose LFS. We'll talk more about it in a moment, but I think one of the key things that sets us apart from the Faculty of Science or even kinesiology is the scale of our school. So it's really community driven. You get a lot of support within the Faculty of Land and Food Systems that maybe isn't as easily accessible in those other schools. I exist here, whereas I don't exist, and no one in those other faculties exists in the same capacity as I do. So those are two really great things. But also, I mentioned it earlier, but this sort of holistic systems-based approach to what we study, I think is really key. So if you're wanting to go into medicine, the cool thing is that at your undergraduate level in LFS, you're going to be doing classes with science students, so the same classes that they need in order to go into medicine. But then you're also doing these other classes that are more thinking about those sort of systems of the healthcare industry or the systems of the world that maybe create challenges in the first place. So that's pretty cool in terms of what we do. Okay, I don't see any other additions to the what topics do you want to learn about, and that's okay. There's tons of things that you can learn about within LFS. Different programs will have different courses within them, but then you also have electives that you can pick. But we have so many really cool things happening here, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. So these are some common routes that people take through LFS. This is not a fully extensive list of what you can do with a degree. There's many things you can do, but very commonly our students are going into professional programs after finishing their undergraduate here with us. So whether that's medicine, dentistry, law, veterinary medicine, those are very common. Health and wellness fields, so things like dietetics, health promotion, working in public health as well. Food science and product development and quality assurance. We have like the most expert faculty members that are working in those areas within our faculty, and also some incredible co-op opportunities at local companies. So things like Purdue, not Purdue, Purdy's. Those are really incredible opportunities that you can access. Working in the government or NGOs around systems, farming and agriculture, sustainable food systems, so thinking about food security, food justice, this sort of thing. Lots of opportunity around research and academia that can influence all of these different fields. Policy and planning, so things that you can actually do to like on a larger scale impact communities in positive ways. And we also have a ton of entrepreneurs that come out of our faculty. And if you're curious about that, we have a whole page on our website that is focused on alumni entrepreneurship. So you can check out what they're doing. Lots of cool things, lots of food related businesses in particular that are really interesting. So where can an LFS degree take you? That's a really important question to be asking. And I've been sort of trying to speak to it a little bit already, but ultimately the answer is to many, many places. You can do a lot with a degree here. Importantly, you don't have to decide now. So even those of you that are coming into school into first year or transferring into UBC that have a clear picture of what you want, you might change your mind while you're here because you might encounter things that are super cool that you didn't know existed, right? So it's great to come in and to be thinking about what you'd like to be getting involved in, but also encourage you not to put too much pressure on yourself to have it all figured out right now. Ultimately, I would suggest that you consider when you're deciding about what type of a program to pursue, consider the skills, the experience, and the knowledge that you want to develop, and make sure that you find a place that's going to enable you to do that. These are two really great resources that I want to highlight. So they each have their own QR code, but you can also find them by searching on your favorite search tool. The What Can You Do with an LFS Degree page. This is a very, very cool tool that exists. We have basically outlined the programs that we offer, the different types of common career outcomes that people are able to pursue after those degrees, lots of resources around getting involved, gaining experiences, how to develop different types of skills, and more on there as well. So we highlight key professional associations that are relevant for those degrees as well. And then also our LFS alumni spotlights. So myself and some of my colleagues are regularly creating new stories about alumni and what they're doing. So this is a really awesome thing about our faculty as well. We have something that we call the newsletter. So we have an Instagram account called, actually, is it? I'm so used to just using it as at LFS newsletters, right, Tuan? Can you pop it in the chat? Thanks. We do features on alumni and features on students that will help you to get ideas and inspiration about what you could be doing while you're here with us at LFS, as well as beyond when you graduate as well. So that's pretty cool. We also have a newsletter that we send via email where we also share these stories as well. So we're constantly creating new content, new information to help you to stay up to date on what's possible, what's out there, and then get you some of that on the ground knowledge and tips for how you can really make that future that you desire happen for yourself. Okay, so career uncertainty, it's normal. And if you're out there and you're like, I know exactly what I want to do, that's wonderful. We're very happy for you. But if you're out there and you're like, I have no idea, how could I possibly figure it out? I just want to encourage you that I'm a career expert and I know from experience, I know from working with other people, I also know from the research and the literature that exists around career that uncertainty is part of the process. There's always a little bit of uncertainty. Even for myself right now, just before we started the session, we were talking about how politics creates uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen down the road when things are always changing. But the most important thing is that at LFS, we support you to navigate uncertainty and to build the resilience that you need in order to succeed despite that uncertainty. So I'm going to share a little bit about how we do that. Ultimately, my key takeaways for why I think we're the best faculty to help you to do that is because we're small and we're a very supportive faculty. So you may have, if you've joined us in other sessions as part of Taste of LFS, you've probably heard that we're called the friendly faculty. This is just a part of who we are. It's a place where people really are deeply care about one another, about what they're doing, and about making this a positive experience being here. So that's a pretty cool thing. It's a systems-based approach. So if you haven't learned about this type of approach to doing things in high school or in your previous education yet, or even your personal experience, it's a way of looking at the bigger picture of what we're studying to try to understand the context of what's happening and why certain outcomes occur as a result of those particular contexts. We believe that it means that we can create more sustainable, more successful solutions to challenges that exist in the world. And that's a big part of what we are interested in doing as well. And then lots of practical experiences in integrated career learning. So there's so much that you have access to through LFS that we would encourage you to take advantage of while you're here. So a little bit more specifically, so one of the cool things about LFS is that we have community-based learning courses. So within the context of our LFS 100, 250, 350, and 450 courses. These are courses where you actually work with members of the community beyond UBC or within UBC on real world challenges to try to understand how you can maybe impact and promote positive change or solutions around those problems that I was talking about before. So they're project-based, which means that you can also put them on your resume. You can highlight and emphasize skills that you've developed through those courses. You'll be working and collaborating with one another and also with professionals. So that's a really cool part of those particular courses. Um, and then the cool thing is that historically, students enrolled in these courses have tackled initiatives like food literacy projects, promoting food system sustainability and food justice within the community, and enhancing the sustainability of the UBC campus food system. So in the first year, the 100 level and 250 level courses, these are mandatory for all LFS students, so you're all a part of it. And through that, participants begin to cultivate a sense of community among your peers and to collaborate on group projects as well. And then these learning opportunities help you to really develop skills that are going to prepare you for more intensive experiences later in your degree, including in the sort of 350 and 450 courses as well. There's additional courses too that you can do that are more self-directed, which I'll talk about in a moment, but this sort of, we call this the core courses. These are courses that can really help you to develop the confidence and independence to be able to take on some of those more independent learning types of projects as well. So experiential learning is a really important part of your undergraduate degree. If you are able to try out what you're learning in the classroom, reflect on how that's going, you'll learn more and more about what you could do differently and how real work gets done, as well as about yourself and what you like and what you don't like. So experiential learning is something that we really prioritize in our curriculum. Many of the courses that you'd be taking will have experiential learning elements attached to them. And then we also have lots of different things that we offer outside of the classroom. So importantly, it allows you to apply what you've learned in the classroom to real world contexts. It cements your knowledge that you're gaining through the classroom, but it also helps you to get a better understanding of how to integrate that into kind of more complex, imperfect situations. And then engaging in experiential learning can also boost your confidence in terms of employability. So it'll give you great stories that you'll confidently be able to use when you network, when you talk to employers, when you interview with jobs. It'll also give you ideas about what your particular strengths are. So the things that you're especially good at, the things that you particularly care about and want to be involved in, which is all really great and helps you to become more adaptable to the future job market. It also ultimately provides an invaluable opportunity for you to network with professionals in your fields of interest. So actually creating those relationships and connections now while you're in school, which can help you to gain opportunities while you're still in school and open doors for when you graduate. So we really care a lot about experiential learning, and we will make it possible for you to do that within your degree. And we'll also really encourage you and support you to find the right opportunities for you in terms of what experientially you'd like to do. We have both 4-credit experiences and also additional types of opportunities. So 4-credit experiences are some of those things that I mentioned earlier in terms of what you could do independently. So we have directed studies courses where you can be a part of figuring out a particular topic that you want to focus in on and gain credit for doing work related to that particular topic of interest. A thesis is a larger project that is a way of practicing research and creating new information related to a topic that you're interested in. So this might involve doing a study and absolutely gives you the opportunity to work closely with a faculty member who would supervise you on this. There's lots of labs that you can be a part of within the faculty. And then there's also opportunities to go on exchange through the Go Global Exchange program. So those are all types of things that you can do that will give you experience that you also gain credit for towards your degree. So it's not an additional thing to do on top of your degree. However, there are some other really wonderful things that you can do that aren't for credit, but are still highly valuable. So the Work Learn program is a fantastic opportunity here on campus to gain experience in all types of different environments. So if you think about a university context, there are many different jobs that happen, whether that be in research labs, in libraries, in other learning systems, in HR, we have this really cool thing called the Learning Center where they create like digital media. There's all kinds of things that happen, and through WorkLearn, students can get jobs doing all these different things. So it's a cool way to get paid and to gain experience. Co-op is a much more extensive learning opportunity. So we can answer questions around co-op if you have any. So please do feel free to add those in the chat if you do. But it's a program that you apply into, and you have terms through your degree where you're working full time, and you're getting paid for that as well. Practicums, I made an error on this slide. Practicums actually are also available through our faculty and are for credit. And students do some really cool practicums, including at those of our students that are in applied biology, practicums at places like the Vancouver Aquarium, working with the marine mammal research team, which is to me like the coolest thing you could ever do. And then also there are clubs across campus. So we have lots of LFS specific clubs that exist that you can get involved in. And then there are other clubs all over campus as well. So importantly, like I mentioned earlier, we're here to really help you figure out what the best approach is for your particular context, the goals that you have for your experience while you're at UBC, and where you want to go in terms of your future career. This year is a really important and special year. Our LFS mentorship program is celebrating 25 years. So this is 25 years of LFS alumni coming back and supporting current students within the faculty. It's the oldest program of its kind across campus, so it's a huge deal. It's also really well established. So there are hundreds of mentors that come back each year in all kinds of different fields, people that are doctors, people that are dentists, people that are in public policy and planning, dietitians, people that are in food service or food production, all kinds of really cool things, lots of entrepreneurs as well that come back. And for free, you can meet with them if you join the LFS mentorship program. So gain those connections that you're looking for to help you to launch your career, but also learn from their experiences, get ideas about what classes are the best classes to take, or where you can find cool opportunities to get experience while you're on campus, all kinds of different things. Okay, so we are going to shift into our chatting with some of our amazing students and alumni. So in a moment, each of them, we have 4 folks with us today. So each of them will share a little bit about who they are, some of their highlights of being at LFS. And then after they've all spoken, we'll do a Q&A session. So keep using that audience Q&A tool while folks are chatting, and then Tuan and I will be taking a look and making sure that we answer some of those questions. There's the Slido again if you need it. So if you're not connected yet, reconnect onto Slido to access the Q&A tool. Tuan, can you pop that in the chat as well, just so that folks have it if they miss it? And then otherwise, I will pass it over to Ann Yang.
Amazing, thank you. So hello everyone, my name is Anne. I use she, her pronouns. I graduated from Food Nutrition and Health major, so FNH, in the Faculty of Land and Food System back in 2022. So my graduation did happen during the tail end of the pandemic, but regardless, I found my entire undergrad journey as well as beyond extremely valuable and enjoyable. I initially went into FNH because I wanted to focus on health and well-being, and I'm also a huge foodie. Turns out a lot of people are similar. I recall everyone in my class being very passionate, very sweet, very friendly, and my professors were excellent and engaging. And I will say that it was during that time when I made one of my best friends. So obviously, I had a lot of great memories attached to those 4.5 years. For example, going to different food spots on campus with my friends after all those stressful exams during midterm and final season, or joining LFS US events to relax and socialize with others. I will say that because FNH is a general stream with lots of flexibilities, especially around electives, I personally took advantage of that design and explored a few different areas outside of FNH. For example, and just on the next slide, I found out that I actually love psychology courses, which opened my eyes to everyday like human tendencies around biases, mental shortcuts, common pitfalls. Those broad basic areas of study gave me a lot of insights that are still highly relevant in my day-to-day and how I communicate with others. The first photo here is from my introduction to e-commerce course. It made me realize that I love design, but I'm not a business person, which is completely fine and still a great thing to learn about yourself. So I will say that even if I didn't fully resonate with the contents, I did really enjoy the course because it pushed me out of my comfort zone to utilize this different way of thinking. After I graduated, I worked in a couple of different areas. I worked part-time for Kids Spring Health Network for about a year, volunteered for their policy, advocacy, research training committee for longer. I formally started working for the Developmental Disability Association for almost 2 years as the administrative assistant in the Assistive Technology Department. It is a mouthful. And if you're curious to learn anything about like these things, feel free to ask me any questions. I'm happy to expand. I also got involved with the LFS Young Alumni Council. And in fact, I'm still on the council running programs that aim to empower the LFS students and alumni community. I just ran a webinar last week with a few great speakers from the council on the 13th. We have an event coming up on the 26th for fun socialization and networking across different LFS cohorts. So it's industry professionals, current students, alumni. It's just an incredibly exciting and fulfilling thing to do to create these supportive relationships and growth opportunities for LFS folks after my graduation. FYI, if you want to check us out, we are on LinkedIn under LFS Young Alumni Council. It's where we have those event updates. So this is really one thing that I absolutely adore about LFS. The sheer number of programs and events for students is incredible. You can really feel that folks are trying to make the students' experience as supported and enjoyable as possible. That kind of community building is also something I miss post-grad, even now. So LFS Young Alumni Council is how I get myself engaged with the community again. Currently, I am pursuing my Master of Public Health in UBC. So I am a current student and I am learning the journey. So public health is, in one sentence, just anything related to health at that public level. One thing that did surprise me is just how embedded public health thinking is integrated in LFS. When I was in my undergrad, I never really paid attention to all those foundational work that my professors have been laying in my mind. But I can really feel the difference when I'm doing my master's because certain ways of thinking comes very naturally to me. One example is system thinking. So when I was learning about it in my undergrad, like drawing these logic models almost feels kind of boring because it's just learning how to produce a diagram that outlines the inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes for recognizing externalities, assumptions, and risks. But they really structure this specific way of program design and problem solving that's heavily grounded in reality. It helped me understand how to concisely compress these complex programs into very simple visuals. And additionally, because of the broad scope within LFS, we have to practice these mental models even when we're not aware through how knowledge is presented in class, working on assignments, engaging in discussions. Then, for me, in public health, comprehending and addressing things like complex social determinants of health or downstream effects of this novel program, it comes extremely easy. Whereas someone from, let's say, a law background or someone who is used to the biochemical model might struggle a little bit more. And I got to use those skills in real life too. For me, I was the one handling the logic model design in my team when we were competing at the Canadian Evaluation Student Case Competition. Apparently, logic model is an area that a lot of students tend to stumble over, but because I've done the exact same thing in my undergrad, it was frankly quite straightforward to organize and display information in that format while being comprehensive and transparent about the broader context. All this just to say, I feel that LFS gave me a very, very wide scope of skills that I can hone through whatever future opportunities that I may wish to pursue. And more importantly, it like sneakily taught me some of the very critical ways of thinking that made my journey a lot smoother. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anne. That was really wonderful. Bhavana, I'll pass it over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Bhavana and I'm also an alumni from the LFS. I did my master's of food science in 2015 and I actually came back to UBC to do my MBA and completed that in 2024. It says here that I was a former strategy and commercial senior advisor at GHD. So that's a management consulting role where I got to work with food and agriculture clients with any kind of problem that they may have, like they may want to start a new processing facility in BC and need grants. We help them with that. Maybe there's a brewery that's exploring starting I worked with Red Bull for one of the projects, and they were exploring different co-packers across BC, and I got to help them with that. So those are the kinds of projects that I work for. And currently, I'm still maintaining an advisory role part-time, but I'm also in a very uncertain time where I'm exploring entrepreneurship. I'm actually planning to start a decaffeination of coffee manufacturing in India. So currently, actually, India is the fourth largest exporter of coffee beans, but a lot of the coffee gets exported to Germany or Canada or Switzerland and then get decaffeinated there. And then they go back to India or other countries if they're exporting it. And by starting this decaffeination at origin, we get to reduce the carbon footprint of the supply chain of coffee beans and also generate jobs in India. So that's what I'm exploring, which means I will be probably moving back next year after living in Canada for 10 years. So yeah, I just want to say that, I've had an amazing career here for the last 10 years since my Master of Food Science degree, which I'll get to in just a second. But yeah, those uncertain times are always going to follow. Even like a few months ago, I didn't know this is something I'd be doing, but I was exploring what else I can do, and I wanted to go back to my friends who were growing a bit older, and it all kind of came together. And I'm really using my chemical engineering, my food science degree, and my MBA completely and holistically for this entrepreneurial journey. I'm going to talk about my favorite memory in the next slide, so I'm going to go to the next one. My career really in food science started with my practicum, which was a hops testing facility in BC where we got to set up testing for breweries. So hops, malt, wheat, water testing, and it was the first hops testing facility in BC, and it got quite a bit of traction online. And through that, I was kind of introduced to marketing as well. So I actually got to market this lab. So I would go to breweries and say, hey, send your samples to us. And, they would send their samples and we would provide them certificate of analysis. And based on that, they would, pair up with breweries, etc. So I actually got a taste of marketing and business there and chemistry. And that set my career off to a really cool trajectory. And since then, I've built a lot of labs, cannabis, stem cell, beverages. Those are the categories of labs that I've helped design and build. And now I'm taking all of that experience into my entrepreneurship. And I think someone mentioned in the comment section that they wanted to network. I think the Young Alumni Council is definitely a very good example, but we have a very strong community. I think it's very special thing about the LFS that even when I was doing my MBA, I felt like I was just in this business world, but I really miss that friendly faculty. And I really found home when I came back to the Young Alumni Council, and I was the VP of entrepreneurship. That time I didn't have a business, but like it was more of like a manifestation and intention. And yeah, that really helped me connect with a lot of individuals and sort of keep that passion for food going. And another highlight for me was starting a pop-up lab, a food science pop-up lab, which all the kids loved. It was like a liquid nitrogen pop-up lab that I do once or twice a year as a side hustle. So yeah, that's kind of me and my memories and highlights in a nutshell.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing and sharing about your new venture. Who would have thought that like that there's an opportunity there to especially like impact and decrease the carbon footprint of coffee production? I love my coffee, so I'm excited for that. It'll be exciting to see how it goes for you. Okay, Andrew, off over to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I am gonna share a little bit of my story, maybe on, I remember maybe more on my experience of maybe outside of the classroom as well too. I think that's actually a really critical part in your career development. Allison did speak on meeting people, making connections, but also just leaving a taste of your character in people's mind. And that to me is how do you make people feel? How do people remember you? And that's going to be a lot of what career strategy is about. Allison did mention a lot of key components that I do believe students should kind of take this into their undergrad. It's not always what grade or the knowledge that you're able to reproduce on a test, but it's that character building and that the experiences that you get, especially experiential learning, which is something that I'm in right now. I'm in the field of experiential learning, which I'll get into. But let's first start off with me in high school. I definitely didn't know exactly where to go. I was like, those career fairs where they had a bunch of booths of different schools? I would take a pamphlet from every single school in Canada and the US just to keep my options open. And I think that was something that, at least for my personality, I really wanted to be able to not close many doors. And I know a lot of you guys might feel that way. And sometimes that is a great approach. And this is my approach to my career is that I did take on as much learning experiences, experiential learning, and different disciplines to know myself a little bit better, to know where I wanted to get into, which is why I've actually started first in the science faculty. When I was there, we were taking generic science classes. I didn't really exactly know where to go until I sat next to a girl in biology. Her name was Brenda, and she was the most friendliest person I could meet. And I was like, "What faculty are you from?" "I'm from LFS. You should like convert over." And that's exactly what happened. I joined LFS first, which is a little camp. We do like a first year camping trip back then called LFS first, and she poached me over because I just didn't feel the science faculty had what I was wanting to study. I really wanted to study biology, but land and food systems is really rooted in science, but also bringing that passion of um, the social sciences as well too. Like so, same as Anne, I'm really into psychology as well too. A lot of my degree actually involved psychology courses, and the degree that supported my goals the most was the generic food, nutrition, and health. Because I was able to take psychology courses, because I was able to explore our relationship with food, with science, and with our land. And Allison did mention talking about the LFS courses. Those are so much fun because you're actually going to farms, you're actually getting boots on the ground to really understand the way the world works and what you can do. And having this like systems approach, right? But yes, I joined the Land and Food Systems faculty in my second year, made so many great friends because I got involved with a lot of undergraduate societies, so student councils here. So I was first the fundraising coordinator, and that's how I got introduced to LFS US. And one of my favorite LFS memories was actually running for VP student life. So running for presidency and campaigning at UBC is intense. You plaster your face on a poster all over campus, and it was just so much fun being able to run a campaign, getting people to like, please vote for me. You know, kind of like those movies where you're like, vote for me for homecoming queen kind of vibe. So that was my favorite experience at LFS. But those experiences made me so connected to the people at UBC, the community at UBC, and there were just so many different experiences and I had fun. And I think my biggest advice for most students is that you need to really enjoy your time as a student. Anne was just telling me that she's like graduating so soon and the time just sneaks up on you. So being able to really enjoy your moment, and that does come from the experiences you have outside of the classroom as well too. And those are just as critical to your career. What I've noticed is with the knowledge that I learned in the classroom, if you don't use it, you lose it. But the people and the impressions that you can keep with with your network that can last all forever, right? So being able to invest in those are very important. I also was working on my Master's of Management, which is at the Sauder School of Business faculty. So I was able to integrate my two passions of food and business. And out of grad, I was a COVID grad. I am a food business owner. So I started my own food business. This business model called Ghost Kitchens emerged, where you can order food on Uber Eats and DoorDash, and people were all at home. So I was able to jump on that opportunity there. And that really sparked my love for entrepreneurship, especially in business school as well too. Um, Got involved with a lot of AI startups, ground small businesses where I was able to put on many different hats from fundraising, work, learning about AI, and I joined some fellowship programs to really own in on my experience in how the world is shaping, especially in career. I'm actually reading a book right now called The Uncertainty Advantage, a book by Scott Steert, who is a leader in inspiring entrepreneurial talent in young people. And we really need to be building this advantage to uncertainty. Allison was saying that uncertainty isn't just normal, but it's actually a superpower. With people who are uncertain with their careers, they're actually uncovering more opportunities, especially with the evolving market of, you know, AI, for example. Jobs that are existing in 10 years will we wouldn't even have thought of today, right? And there are so many jobs now that were never existing just 5 years ago, you know, because of the way the world is shaping and technology and politics, like Allison was mentioning. Um, so really just being able to have an open mind and owning in and not having that making you anxious, but really leaning into that uncertainty is going to be your advantage here. So, and all of that was learned not in the classroom, but because of the turbulent market that I was in. I was a COVID grad. There were no jobs available, so I started my own business. I jumped from job to job, working in different small businesses, getting laid off multiple times, right? But right now, I work at a company called Ripen. We help connect students to experiential learning, and that is my company. The leader, CEO of Ripon, is a world leader in experiential learning and bringing students as much experiential learning programs as possible. So I get on calls every day with business owners asking if like, hey, if a student can come in and help you out, what can we do? So I try to uncover opportunities for students. And we help get government funding for those students. So we're enabling this experiential learning, which is going to be really big. I'm a really big advocate for it, that you do have to apply what you're learning in the classroom to your own hands, to the people that you're meeting, to the value that you're able to provide, and that's going to be your advantage. So that's going to be a little bit about me. Let me share a little bit my memories at LFS on the next slide there. So we actually started the LFS Gala with my undergraduate society, and we bought this mascot my year as well too. We were designing it, and this was a really big win for us. So Reggie has been a special place in my heart. So I also talked about LFS first and Wednesday night dinner. We're such a friendly faculty that we like to sing Kumbaya around the campfire. We like to have dinners, vegan dinners. And my LFS first team, I was actually a co-chair, so I was running the camp for the first years there. And we just also had downtime with Reggie, and just we also built the lounge. That was my year as well too. It was just a storage room before, and then we furnished it, painted the walls, fixed the flooring and everything, and created a really nice place for students to chill and hang out. And that all of this still exist today at LFS because we built this my year, and it's been really awesome to kind of see that flourish when I get back to campus. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I would love to take more questions about just career development and what I do at Ripon, but I hope I didn't take too much time there. I was just rambling on there.
No, that was
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. I didn't know that you were involved in getting us Reggie. Reggie's like so much fun. Everybody loves Reggie. Reggie comes out for all the most important things.
I
So
remember us
thanks.
drawing his antennas, and we were like voting, like what should he look like? And I was,
That's
yeah.
so cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Reggie's our mascot and also bees in general. We love our bees. Bees are pretty amazing in terms of what they do in the world and how important their impact is, even though they're so small. So we love bees. Bees are all over the place here. Later in the Q&A, I want you to make sure that you share too a little bit more about your Masters of Management, because that is an opportunity that LFS students can
Yes,
pursue that they might not be available for. So I'll make sure I ask you a question about that.
great.
Thank you.
Uh, did you want me to? Oh, we have Sharon next. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
we'll do Sharon
Yeah.
first and then we'll get to the questions after. Thanks so much, though. Go ahead, Sharon.
Hi everyone, my name is Sharon. My pronouns are she, her. I'm currently in my third year studying food nutrition and health, and I'm also an LFS outreach assistant. I'm currently taking time off from school to complete an 8-month co-op with PepsiCo as a quality control intern. And in my role, I focus on monitoring production performance through daily yield tracking and conducting root cause investigations when reject rates or yield rates are falling below target. And so that ensures that we can identify issues on the line early and also implement actions quickly. I'm also working on a sensory testing program, putting together a panelist of employees, as well as checking for on notes and off notes, and verifying that the products are consistent. And I also flag anything that's out of spec. So that's in terms of, let's say, sugar concentration, packaging, carbonation levels, pH, and things like that. And I also support internal audits by reviewing documentation, assessing compliance through GMP walks, and helping maintain high food safety and quality standards required in the manufacturing environment. And one of my favorite memories in LFS has to be laughing and joking around with my friends right outside of exam halls instead of reviewing like we probably should have been doing, even though we usually come out of exams literally massaging our heads and having to de-stress with like face masks to cool off. But I have absolutely no regrets there. But LFS has definitely given me like a very strong sense of community and a strong sense of home as well. And as an international student, I feel as though that was really detrimental for me and my transition towards university. And many of my closest friends are also in this faculty, as you can probably see in the next slide. Um, I loved attending like our annual events like the LFS US Gala and the end of summer picnic at the UBC farm, like getting food from the food trucks, enjoying the sunset, and taking way too many Polaroid pictures. But I have to say, what I enjoyed most contributing to at LFS is being part of the LFS ACE team, which is the LFS Academic and Career Engagement team. We handled the logistics for the Career Stories networking event, and I got to moderate the event as the MC and also learn a lot of the alumni's career journeys and building those connections. And so just a year ago, I was in your position, wondering what kinds of career path there were in this faculty. And I hope that you are able to gain just as much insight as I have in the past. Yeah, so happy to be here.
Thank you, Sharon. I really appreciate that. And it's a good reminder for me too to flag the LFS ACE team, which is a special thing that we have in the faculty as well, which is a group of LFS students who are committed to providing peer-to-peer support around your academics and also your career. So that's a pretty cool program that exists where they work really closely with our office and receive lots of mentorship to do this. But one of the big events, the Career Stories, we bring alumni onto campus to do a networking event as well. And we do that every year, and we've been doing it for quite a long time. So that's a cool opportunity too for LFS students specifically. So thank you. Okay. Tuan, should I do admissions now, or should we do questions first?
We can do questions first.
Yeah, I was thinking we should do questions first. Okay, perfect. So I'll just pop back onto this slide. So if you have questions, feel free to use that Slido tool. And then otherwise, you can also pop them in the chat. We will do our best to read through the chat as well. And as we give people an opportunity to share their questions through Slido, Andrew, I will ask you, so can you tell us more about that dual Masters of Management program and how you learned about it and how it impacted like logistically your time at LFS?
Oh man, I think the B plus MM program is the best program ever because it gets to put your two passions together and turn it into a profession. For me, when I started learning about business, I was really hooked on how we can bring ideas to market, how we can be entrepreneurial with our ideas. And so the B plus MM program is actually open to high school students. You can work on your master's degree or not on the degree, but you can start master's courses right after high school. So that's what I was able to do. I was working on business courses as well as science courses my first year, and then I moved into LFS and continued taking business courses. So these were fundamentals in business, and I was really loving it. Basically, your electives at LFS will be business courses if you're enrolled in this program, and you get a little bit of best of both worlds. And then after you finish your LFS degree or any undergrad degree, you'll be able to fast track your master's degree. So you can do it in, I believe, 4 months, 4 to 6 months. They might have changed the timeline now, where you can come up with a master's degree and a bachelor's degree within 4.5 years if you do it quickly. If you do co-op, then maybe 5 years. So that's what I did. And it was just a really great way to be able to get a taste of both worlds, not just your skill set, but the people, the networking events, and the resources for the business school and LFS. So that is a really great program. Yeah, it's called B plus MM. It's a dual degree program because business is really applicable in a lot of disciplines, right? So being able to do that both during your undergrad has been really revolutionary to why I love business and merged my two passions together.
That's really cool. Thank you. I know it's a great opportunity that exists, and we should really talk about it more in the session earlier as well, because yeah, I think it's such a great way to get yourself like connected to other communities on campus as well if you're interested in business. And they don't have to decide that they want to do that before they join first year, right? You can apply
That's
after.
right. You
Yeah.
can also enter in your third year as well too. But it really did feel like, oh, my home faculty is LFS, but then I also was half foot into the business world as well too. And as someone who had difficulties choosing faculties, like, and I loved psychology as well too. So I just felt like I was in arts, science, LFS, and solder. Like that was just my career journey. But I really did love learning about all these different disciplines.
That's very cool. Yeah. I think that's one of the wonderful things about UBC too, regardless of like which faculty you're in, there's opportunities all over the place. So you can really make it your own. But it's been really cool hearing all four of you talk about, the community vibe at LFS and how much that positively impacted all of your experiences and stories as well. So that's really nice to hear that, our intention of providing that support is actually realizing. And all four of you have been so involved in also making the LFS community a good place to be in your times at LFS. So I want to say thanks to all of you for your own efforts now and ongoing, as I know a number of you still are, especially through the Young Alumni Council. It makes all the difference. And I think it's also a really cool a great reason why I love working within LFS as well. People want to get involved and they want to create that positive impact. So that's very cool. Okay, I see a question in the, I see a couple of questions actually, I think. So here's one. What are some notable differences or similarities between Bachelor of Science in Applied Biology versus Bachelor of Science undergrad? Oh, that's a good question. Um, Tuan, do you feel you can answer that question?
Yeah, I can help
Okay,
with that.
I'll pass it to you.
So, um, I'll just preface this now that I'm not actually an academic advisor, but a lot of what I do is give recommendations to high school students. And when it comes to the faculty of science, so what you call like the Bachelor of Science versus the Bachelor of Science in Applied Biology is applied biology is actually in the faculty of Land and Food Systems, where it gets broken down into two majors, where one is like the animal biology program, and the second one is what we call the sustainable agriculture and environments major. So even though that's why we call it applied biology, because it's they're both topics based around biology, but more so specifically in those two fields. One's about animals, the other one's about agriculture and environmental sustainability. And that kind of helps students be more focused on certain topics, which is very different than over in like the Faculty of Science, where it's quite broad. What you're studying generally centers around like cell biology, and because it's so broad, then some students think like get a little overwhelmed by that. So that's I guess that's one benefit to LFS and the programs that we have in the applied biology program is because of how specific things are. You kind of get a really good grip of what you're actually learning. And I would say even if you are in like the applied biology program or in the sustainable agriculture and environments program, you're still able to apply to medical school, apply to dentistry, or if you're interested in like veterinarian school, then that's clearly what that applied animal biology major is for, is
Yeah.
setting you up for veterinarian school. So yeah, I would say like for the most part, you actually even do in like for most like science degrees, like anything that has Bachelor of Science, then generally you're taking the same courses in your first year as well. So if you ever to think about transferring in or transferring out, it's like quite simple in your first year, just because we're essentially all have to learn from the same foundations. But then like I said, like in the name, it's just about how you apply those foundations. That's different.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so key point there too is you'd be getting a Bachelor of Science, so BSc at LFS or the Faculty of Science. It's the same type of degree. So lots of those foundational pieces are required because it is a Bachelor of Science. But yeah, I really appreciate what you were sharing there, Tuan. And I think I also just want to underscore the practicality of our program. So that's why it is the sort of applied nature, because we have you out doing things and in the classroom, like thinking more tangibly about real instances where you might be using these skills or doing these particular things. Whereas because science is broader, like you might have they have different majors that you can choose from, but it is like a more of like the pure like in the lab, in the like research, in the kind of core of the technical components of science. So we do that, but then we also do it in a way where we try to make it relevant to the real world. So that's one of the biggest differences. So absolutely can totally do both, do medicine, do those sort of healthcare oriented roles from LFS. I saw a question here for our panelists. So what, maybe we can take turns. Anyone that wants to pop on, feel free to pop on if you have an answer to this. So what factors influenced your first job after university, and how did you navigate the transition?
Ooh, it's a good question. I can talk first,
Great.
and then let others have a chance to think as well. For me, when I graduated from my undergrad, it was right around the like the tail end of the pandemic. So, like things are like slowly starting to look better, but like the job market hasn't really recovered yet. And at that time, I found out what really helped me was joining like all kinds of career events on campus. So UBC offers a lot of support to students, as with LFS faculty. And it was through the connections I made during these job fair that actually helped me. Like I reached out to someone and I was like, oh yeah, I remember talking to you during this and this job fair. You told me about these. I'm really passionate in this subject. I'm really interested. Is there any position opening? And they got back to me. And that's how I landed like my first job after undergrad, working at Developmental Disabilities Association. So yeah, take advantage of the resources around you.
Amazing. Thanks, Sam.
I actually
Anyone
got my
else?
job at a career fair it was an ACE career fair, and I submitted my resume. They're like, "Yeah, we want you." And then I was able to secure a spot at Vancouver General Hospital as a supervisor there. Um, they were hiring for patient food services, so I managed the kitchen at Vancouver General Hospital, and it was the craziest experience I've ever had. Managing 200 people as a student, and I just had a lot of different supervisor and management experience. So your first job at the P&E, selling mini donuts, that was my first job. But I learned a lot of great skills because I learned how to be a leader there. And that leadership got me into different leadership positions for bigger food companies in Vancouver and then managing to one of the Canada's biggest hospitals, right? So these all kind of stack, right? And it depends on like where your foundations are. For me, I really did love food and leadership and management. And so that's kind of where I got my first like big boy job, I guess. Um, Kind of like stacking those experiences together, but also, yeah, just going to these career fairs and making connections and being memorable. And I think that's how you land an interview and that's how you land the job.
Amazing. Thank you. Bhavna, would you like to share anything?
Yeah, I think I mentioned mine already, which was I had the practicum at the Hobbs lab, and then that converted into a full-time role. So I felt like I had a and that was also my first job in Canada. So that was really great. I had very good mentor who advocated for me within the company to make me a permanent employee. So that transition was smooth, and just the transition into finding mentorship as well. Actually, I've not found the same, in other parts of my career, but that time I found it straight from school into my career, and I couldn't have asked for a better start for my career in Canada. So that, yeah, it was actually a very easy transition in that sense for me.
Amazing. Thank you. So the next one, maybe both Sharon and Tuan, you can answer this, and then I'd be curious if our alumni folks feel the same. But which courses in LFS do students find most challenging?
I'll go first. I
Okay, great.
think I guess I'll speak to it because I actually got into UBC and got into LFS through the Food Nutrition and Health program. And I would say like well during my time there I did struggle with like quite literally all the foundational courses. Like taking calculus was still quite hard for me. And then all the chemistry stuff was also quite hard. For me, biology was my stronger suit, so I was always fine in that department. But definitely when it came to like first and second year chemistry, first year calculus, then like I think a lot of students do struggle with that, not just me. So it was quite normal to see like like sometimes you may fail a midterm, but it's mainly about like understanding like one failing one exam isn't really the end of your career, end of your entire existence, as I'm here today. I'm actually at my sixth year at UBC because eventually in third or fourth year, I actually figured out that I'm actually good at statistics, even despite doing like not that well in calculus. I think after a couple, like I actually got used to like the calculus concepts eventually and being able to take that into calculus, taking that into also more like an economics realm. Then now that I'm in the food and resource economics program itself, my math is actually a lot better. I actually understand it a lot better because I've been using it more so in like a calculus in a visual way. So that's one thing, right? Even though I wasn't great at it from like that like hardcore grinding out problem sets and like really reproducing what I learned on a test type of calculus, but like when now I'm applying the knowledge from calculus in like an economics context, then like I've figured out what was good for me as well. So sometimes the most challenging courses aren't necessarily things that you're bad at. It's just something that you just need a little more time, a little more effort to actually learn.
Totally great tip. Yeah, yeah. Sharon?
I actually had the same answer as Tuan. I think the first year courses were the hardest for me. I feel like with math and chemistry specifically, it's just it has to do with a lot of like time management. And I feel as though that's not a skill that I gained from high school, even though we still had a lot of assignments, a lot of tests. But I feel like coming into UBC, I wasn't used to having to study or having to review on a daily basis after lectures. And so I left the studying to the last minute during my first year. And so that really messed me up during the midterms as well as the finals. But I feel like going to second year and third year, having the courses that are more also aligned to the major. It's not necessarily just the basics of like calculus, chemistry, but a lot of the food, nutrition, and health courses are very specific. Um, if I had to share like one of my most favorite courses, it would be the International Nutrition course, FNH 355, where you really get like a world view, a global perspective on macronutrient or micronutrient deficiencies, how different populations are affected by it, and what the symptoms are to it, like how you can detect each of them. And I feel like a lot of those courses within LFS are really, really um, interesting, and it like opens your eyes to like new perspectives and also like new interests as well to see like where your career can be headed after that. Yeah.
Totally. Awesome. Thank you.
Oh,
We
I
have
just
a question. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to add a little bit to my answer.
Yeah.
My first year was actually in 2020, so right as the pandemic hit. So, I guess for me, the challenging part wasn't just the courses, it was also having learning purely through Zoom and through online lectures and stuff. So, I would say that's like another troubling component is I'm someone who really needs to be in a classroom setting and in a setting that's like kind of created for learning. And for me, like switching from high school to then Zoom, was quite jarring as
Mm,
well. So then I was like, that's also another thing that affects your learning as well. So once again, it's not about the course. There's many other things that make courses hard, and I would say like even just like the way it's presented to you is also affects how you perceive it.
totally. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. I think that there's something, I know I'm a bit of a dinosaur, but even when I was a UBC student as well. So when I transitioned from high school to university, I think it took me personally a very long time to figure out how I learn best. And it sounds like, Tuan, like you figured that out for sure. And I think that's a big part of the transition piece too. So not just going to classes, but actually thinking critically about what's going to help you to understand the content, because it might be different than the person next to you and you might need to adjust your study habits. LFS has lots of resources for that as well. So that's pretty cool. We run events and activities, study sessions, etc., that are specific to the courses that we know are challenging, and that generally help you to get your kind of like practices in place in order to be successful. There's a question here about just the transition process overall from high school to living on campus and courses. So um, I will say I think it's different for everyone depending on where you are, where you're coming from. Maybe you're transferring from a different school, from a different faculty, or you're coming in from high school but living in a big city, living in a small place, living internationally. It can be quite different. First year is a lot. I think anywhere, because you are going through a lot personally in the process, especially if you're like leaving home for the first time or like moving outside of the place where you grew up or where you're most comfortable. The workload can be quite heavy, but it's also, I mean, I think it can be such a fun time because you're meeting so many new people. You're learning so much that maybe you haven't been learning before, learning a lot about yourself as well. And like it's been mentioned across the board, I think tonight there are so many resources to help you to succeed. And so, yeah, I would highlight that as well. Would anybody else like to share any thoughts about their experience or what they believe in terms of transitioning, what transitioning looks like in the first year at university?
most people say it'll hit you like a truck. It's actually like the worst year of my life. I think first year was really difficult, and everybody will agree. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
I feel like I'm a little bit of an outlier here because I did my high school like here in Vancouver, and like my high school was like maybe an hour and a half bus away from like UBC. So like I've always heard about UBC, and I know that I wanted to go into science. So during high school, I took AP Chem, AP Calculus, and AP Physics, but I didn't do the exam specifically because I wanted to have not really have the credit, but to get familiar with the first year courses, and that helped me tremendously. Because during that first year, I can really focus on like settling into the rhythm of the first year of university instead of being tripped up on like these new concepts of learning. It feels a little bit more like a review for me. So yeah, I think it really depends on like people and your experience and your background, and your passion really. And I will say that another thing that helped with the transition period is, make friends, talk to the people around you, like try to get their number, their social media, organize study groups. Like these are the things, the social connection that's really going to help you like move forward together.
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate that too, because I think if I even think back to transitioning from high school to UBC, I grew up in a very small town in Ontario. So I moved all the way over here, which was very exciting, but obviously lots going on. I lived in residence, and that was like such a wonderful thing for me because it meant that I was able to make friends very quickly. And some of those friends are still people that I'm very, very, very close with now, which is quite cool. I also loved that because I met people from different fields, people that were studying different types of things, which I really valued as well because I'm a curious person in general. Um, but yeah, but academically it was challenging too because even though I was doing something that I felt confident in, it's not as easy as high school. Like things are, I didn't even study the sciences, but even in the arts, it's not as easy as high school. So I think it's not uncommon that people have experiences where like maybe you fail something that you've never failed before, or you get a C and you're not used to that at all. So there's a lot I think that personally you go through in first year when you're in university, but the people are the things that I remember the most. And I look back on my first year as like so much fun. I have so many positive memories of being in first year. Anyone have anything else they'd like to say about that?
I'll just add on the part like because I talk to a lot of high school students through my job, and I'd say one of the biggest things I do recommend is both what Sharon and Anne had just mentioned. Like Sharon's like you if you don't have great study habits in high school, then that transition from high school to first year is like probably that will definitely hit you like a truck because you're not
Mm,
like just having to understand that like you can't just study for tests and study for assignment like do assignments the day before they're due. That's just not possible with the workload at university. So then when you are building study habits in high school, then you're setting yourself up for success. And just like with Anne, like we do recommend students to take AP courses. And even I remember my calculus teacher told me like even if you take AP courses, sometimes you shouldn't even take the credit because basically you're relying on your knowledge from high school to then do like your second year courses with it. And sometimes it is better just to get to take AP courses for the sake of just getting like a kind of like a preview of what Anne talked about, and then kind of helped her more focus more so on that transition aspect of from you. From high school to university, rather than figuring out that now I have to learn like all of these new topics
mm.
while in first year. So yeah, I just love that. Like they've basically spoken to everything that I also tell students when I meet them in person for workshops.
That's awesome. There's a couple questions here that I'll try to answer briefly, and Tuan, maybe you can help me with the chat. So, there's a question around like, would it be difficult to incorporate prerequisite courses for med school? And how many credits do you need in total? So we've talked about it a little bit, but no, definitely not. The prerequisite courses for med school are many of the courses that we actually have within our degree requirements as well. So it's great to kind of be like looking at those med school prereqs and then planning your degree based on that. But Tuan, if there's like, I'm thinking maybe the academic calendar or even just the page where we have the total credits required for our degrees. If you could pop that in the chat, that might be helpful. You can find all of that information about credit count and how many credits are required online. Unless, Tuan, you want to share briefly about it because you're well versed in it.
Oh, I was just gonna mention like we actually just did a panel about this last Wednesday on how like F&H and like to what you learned in that food nutrition and health program, like systems thinking, all the things about nutrition and health, and just the course load that you take as a LFS science student, mainly like F&H. You do take chemistry, biochem, pretty much everything you need for the MCAT. And because we brought on past LFS alumni that are currently med school students or currently residents in med school, they pretty much said like you can just like you take all the courses that you need. You can actually do the MCAT right after you finish those courses, after like second year, and that basically like sets you up for med school. And then the other aspects of LFS also help with your med school application. So quite like, but yes, always double check to make sure that you have all the credits you need for medical school. Depending on different medical schools, UBC is a little more flexible. Maybe a medical school from another institution has more specific requirements, but definitely when it comes to LFS and I guess F&H and the pathway into medicine is what we call the actual panel itself. It is like I think we do a great job in setting students up for medical school. And then we will be like I mentioned in the chat, we will be posting the YouTube video sometime like 1 or 2 weeks from now. So please look out for that.
Awesome. And while I have you too, do you have any tips for folks in terms of their writing their personal profile?
Would you like me to answer that as well?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
All right. When it comes to the personal profile, I would say, I think what students need to realize is you could kind of turn any type of experience into, what you can write on your personal profile. But it's more so about understanding like what you actually learned from, your experience and how that has changed like who you are as a person, right? Because that's what that personal profile is about. It's about showing that you can go into any situation and take something out from it, right? A lot of people can write about like, oh, I volunteered for the SPCA, or oh, I volunteered at my local hospital, right? But sometimes when they write about that, they don't understand. They're kind of just bragging about it rather than actually showing like how that's changed their community, what their part in that role is, and how that's helped them. And that's really that extra level that I would say UBC is looking for in that personal profile. And also like when it comes to a student that may not be as strong academically, then that personal profile component also helps with balancing who you are as a person. Because I guess that's another great thing about UBC. And I also, I guess, like I would say really strongly in LFS as well, is we always want to make sure our students are people that are like great individually, have those people skills, because honestly, as I think Andrew mentioned, or even Anne, like your networking skills and even sometimes just your work experience is what lands you the job, not your academics.
Totally. Thank you so much. There's one more question here. We've only got about 5 minutes left, and I want to get to a little bit more about admissions, but maybe if one or two of our panelists are up for talking about this, there's a question about pivots. So were there any unexpected turns or pivots in your career journey, and what did you learn from them?
I can take this on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've had a couple of pivots. So I've pivoted from a lab work to a more business-oriented work, and that was kind of unexpected, but also in some ways intentional. So I found that after a while, like I was really liking the business side of things. And I was getting offers over and over again for lab work. And I realized I'm saying no to this, but that is my skill set. Like my skill set is managing a lab. So I had to write down my priorities. So I actually really like this exercise of writing down your priorities. Sometimes you end up having a job in your mind that might not actually be the reality that you want to do. So like for example, right now I'm pivoting. Right now geography is very important for me. I want to move closer to Asia and India. Like that's a top priority. And then, I'm in my 30s, like, I want it to be a little bit more flexible, things like that. But when I first graduated, my priority was I wanted
I can move anywhere, I can travel. Like, I just want as much lab skills as possible. So I would write those down and then see if the jobs that I'm applying for actually fit those priorities. So kind of having that targeted effort and understanding, what your priorities are and if they are actually aligned with the jobs that you're applying is a very simple but effective exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, really important. I love that. Thank you. And I think it's just important to also realize that all the experiences that you have teach you things that you can transfer into other types of places too. So that's one of the things that I love working with students around too. So if you end up becoming an LFS student and you're struggling with trying to figure out like, how do I make this skill sound like clear enough that I could do this job? So creating that transfer, yeah, please feel free to reach out because that's the kind of thing I can help you with as well. Thanks, Bhavna. Just in the interest of time, we'll move forward. So just a couple of notes about admissions for LFS. So on the screen here are the high school requirements for BC students. So if you're applying to if you're applying to AppBi or FNH, you're going to need those grade 11 requirements there. So Chem 11 and Physics 11. If you're applying, you'll also need grade 12 requirements, English 12 or English 12 First Peoples, pre-calculus 12, and then one of biology 12, chem 12, or physics 12. And then if you're applying specifically for the food and resource economics program, you only need pre-calculus 12. Calculus 12 is recommended but not required. And then English studies or First Peoples 12, and then other related courses. So things that maybe are related and could generally prepare you for that. So we have a couple of suggestions there for you. And those would help with your application. If you're from another province, we definitely encourage you to check out your specific requirements at the website is u.ubc.ca, so you.ubc.ca, so you can check out the requirements there. And then additionally on this next screen, so we have some information on the left-hand side for transfer students. So if you're planning to transfer into LFS from either a different, I think this is specifically from the high school. Sorry, apologies. So if you're planning to transfer into LFS, then that information is on the left-hand side, and then the application deadlines are on the right-hand side if you're applying straight from high school. So on that left-hand side, we encourage you to reach out to our office if you have specific questions about your situation, if you're a transfer student. As a transfer student, we also encourage you to use the UBC Transfer Guide. It will help you to check how your coursework from your current institution may or may not transfer to UBC Vancouver. And yes, if you have questions, please do feel free to reach out to us. And then for that right side, it's just good to know that the application deadline for UBC is January 15th. But if you are a direct entry applicant from high school, so you're in high school now and you're applying to UBC and LFS, then we really encourage you to try to get your application in by the early deadline, the early admissions deadline, which is December 1st. So final deadline, January 15th, early admission deadline, December 1st. And we encourage you to try to make that happen. That's it for us. So please do stay in touch. There's our email there if you do have any of those questions, especially for those of you that have transfer questions related to your transfer credits. If you have career related questions, you can email that lfs.advising@ubc.ca as well, and it'll get forwarded over to me. Encourage you to follow LFS on X and also X and Instagram, and also check out our website, planfood.ubc.ca. We have a couple additional resources here. So 2 of these I already flagged earlier in the session, but also want to flag Career Carrots, which is the LFS Career Podcast. Anne, who's been one of our speakers, has an episode on there with me. So if you're interested in hearing more from Anne, you should check that out. And there are some additional really awesome resources there. We have an episode about co-op and how LFS students can take advantage of co-op. So that can be a cool resource for you as you're considering your decision as well. That's it for us. So we will stop recording, but we'll stick around for a couple of minutes if anyone has any questions that they want to ask directly.